bad about winning. I'm hardly here to make something bad. Good morning to you. Good Monday morning. I'm Dejan Kovacevic of DK Pittsburgh Sports. This is Daily Shot of Pirates. It comes your way bright and early every weekday if you're into football and or hockey. I also offer daily shots of Steelers and Penguins in the same place that you found this. Pirates 4, Braves 3 yesterday. The home team taking 2 out of 3 from Atlanta. And those, of course, were also the first 3 games of the Don Kelly managerial tenure, which especially factoring in that yesterday began with a Carmen Majinski versus Chris Sale matchup, and it ended on a walk-off winner by Joey Bart, should function as something of a, I don't want to say a reset button. This is way too late to be resetting anything, but maybe a refresh button where they don't feel like the world is coming down on top of them as this clubhouse has felt all season long. This was part of Kelly's reaction after the game yesterday at PNC Park.
Oh man, he just unbelievable, just grinding it out. And you look at that last one against the close. I mean, all those at bats. We up 3-0, tough inning. They tie it up 3-3, but the fight that these guys had, continuing to grind, continue to put together good at bats. Frazier getting the pinch hit off the bench. Key with 2 strikes, finding a way to move the ball forward. It was just great to see the resiliency there and the way that they continue to fight and come out on top.
I'm going to repeat this from last week when Donnie was named manager. There just isn't a better guy. He's one of those, like, you're never going to hear anybody come close to speaking a negative syllable about him. That is going to make a difference. The accountability that he'll bring, that I believe he'll bring, and others within the organization believe he'll bring, that'll help. The fight, that was the one thing that was put forth to me back when the change was made from the inside, was they're looking for more fight from the manager's role than what they'd been seeing out of Derek Shelton, especially over the past, well, really over the better part of this still young season. It's only at the quarter pole. And all of that's well and good. I'm a believer very much so in the intangibles. I'm a believer very much so in a manager's influence over instruction, development, discipline, accountability. And once more, just for emphasis, I'm a believer in Don Kelly. Those of you who've been with me for a while will know that's the only name I've mentioned, the only name as a replacement whenever I would advocate for Shelton to be fired. Now, if it felt like this entire segment was just pushing the butt back, here comes the butt. I mean, man, do they ever have a hill and a half to climb. Right off the bat, tonight they're in New York facing the zillion-dollar Mets, who are first in the NL East at 26-15. They have the best run differential in the National League at plus 67. 3 up there at Citi Field, and then 3 in Philadelphia. I'll be covering those for DK Pittsburgh Sports. That's coming up this weekend. Phillies are second. They're right behind the Mets. Game and a half back, 24-16. And with those 2 teams, you can probably throw in the Padres and the Cubs in with the other obvious one, that being the Dodgers, and say these are the best that the league's got. And at the moment, the Mets are the very best the league's got. I will always look at run differential versus overall records this time of year. After that, when they come home, the Reds and the Brewers, divisional games against a couple of opponents that are right around 500. Diamondbacks, who are game over. I already referenced the Padres. They're after that out in San Diego, where the Pirates never, not just that they never win, they never even play well. And that's this month. And that's not even taking into account the real challenge that's ahead. And that's that it's the same roster. And as we saw Saturday, it's going to make the same mistakes. And as I learned over the weekend in my one-on-one meeting with Bob Nutting at PNC Park, Ben Cherington's here for 2025. Now, he didn't express it in that terminology. I'm doing that based on the feel for the way the talk went. His stance, and I don't happen to share it, but going to lay it out for you here so that at least there's an understanding, is that if he pulls the plug on the general manager, now he feels there's less of a chance of anything turning around. And, you know, he saw me tilt my head as he spoke that. I wasn't being a jerk. I just didn't understand what he was getting at. But when he elaborated that once you don't have the GM, you have people throughout your process that are convinced that they're doomed. And it sucks some of the life out of, well, you know, the entire process. And that part I actually do understand, because that is accurate. And furthermore, that's actually what I would want from the new GM. I don't want a new GM coming in and saying, hey, all these people are awesome. This is great. I want that new GM to have the guts and the clout, the legit clout, to be able to call his shots, meaning in the interview process, and say to Nutting, hey, you know, things haven't gone so well for you here for quite a while here. You're going to need this and you're going to need that. And if you want to get me to do it, I'm going to need this and I'm going to need that. Now, can you bring that guy in midstream? Sure, you can do that. But the entire rest of your, I'm going to use this word again, process is beaten down. So again, it's not a stance that I share, because my angle on that is, and this is the one I've been giving you for weeks now, you could have ditched the GM, promoted somebody from within as interim GM, and told everybody, hey, listen, if this goes well, you're all going to hang around, or a lot of you are going to hang around. This guy's already here. But look, one way or another, the same GM is here. I see Cherington as dead man walking. I see Cherington as not having the kind of license that other GMs are going to have for the remainder of the 2025 season. And as such, I don't see moves being made to make the roster markedly better. As an example, I'll toss out, let's say that somebody came available who would cost some significant dollars. Do you think Nutting will give those significant dollars? No, of course you don't. And not just necessarily for the first thought that came to mind, which is that he's not going to pay the big bucks, because he never does. Because the next thought is, okay, why would you do that when the team is 14-27? And why would you do that if the only thing that you can give up, meaning by way of trade, is a starting pitching prospect? You don't want this guy making that move. You just don't. When we come back, J1Q. If you're looking for a great dining experience, look no further than North Shore Tavern. Located directly across Federal Street from PNC Park, next door to Mike's Beer Bar, North Shore Tavern is Pittsburgh's home for steak on a stone. Enjoy your steak finished on a hot lava stone in front of you, where you ensure each piece is cooked to exactly your liking. Or try their rotating selection of entrees, hot sandwiches, salads, and burgers, all while enjoying the ambiance dedicated to the great players and history of the Pittsburgh Pirates all around you. Come see why everyone's talking about North Shore Tavern and steak on a stone.
It's Gun Storage Check Week. Help prevent unwanted access to your firearms. No one wants their unsecured gun to be used in an accident, a suicide, or a crime. Use lockboxes, safes, and locks to secure your firearms. Learn more at gunstoragecheck.org. That's gunstoragecheck.org. Brought to you by NSSF, the Firearm Industry Trade Association.
Today's J1Q comes from Jeffrey, who says, just thinking out loud here, DK, assume Bob Nutting truly wants to drive the change it's necessary to fix Major League Baseball's economic model. What's his relationship like with the people in charge of this actually happening? Do the other owners listen to him? Do they respect him? You would think that he's the laughingstock of everybody in the room, given the Pirates' terrible performance in his tenure. Why do you think that he can do it? Now, for anybody who doesn't know Jeffrey's reference, Nutting has spoken on several occasions, but never more clearly this weekend, that one of the reasons that he feels he's the right owner for the Pirates, and he'll actually use that term because that's the opposite of the term that I use in some of my writings. It's almost like a poking back, along with references to steward of the franchise and whatever, because I've used all these in my columns. And I'm not going to lie, I actually get a little bit of a kick out of having that be the specific retort that'll come back. So as I did earlier in the opening segment, I'm going to give you first his stance on this, why he sees himself not just as the right person, but as the only person who can fight this battle on Pittsburgh's behalf. It is because he has made relationships. It is because he's in constant communication with the major players in this. And that's not necessarily who you think it is. It's not like you're calling the Dodgers or whatever. When I say major players, I'm not talking about market size. I'm talking about the people who are expected to be the real movers and shakers in this thing. And I can't give you names, okay? But and I know everybody hates when you do a trust me, bro, okay? But I can't give you names. You're just going to have to trust me, bro. There are real names in this process, and he is talking to real names. He's meeting with them in person. He's meeting with other people on a regular basis who aren't owners, but who have a lot to do with this sort of thing once it gets serious. And he is in very regular communication with Rob Manfred himself. Now, I can hear everybody shouting back into their device right now as I'm speaking. Why did he vote against it? He voted against it. He's never fought for this. Why would he do? No. He didn't vote against anything to straighten that part of it out with the last labor agreement. What he did was he voted in favor of the labor agreement. He had no chance. Nobody had any chance of getting any kind of salary cap system in that thing. And he has told me that he'd thought about casting one of those, in the NFL, they're called Raiders votes, where the Raiders would just vote no on absolutely everything, just to be the Raiders. For those of you who are football fans, you'll maybe get a kick out of having that come up in this conversation. And he thought about doing that, and then he saw with his own eyes, and then later we would all see it, the way some owners get treated by the rest of the owners when they make things more difficult for the group as a whole. Nutting has never done that. Now, you can see that as a failing. I have seen it as a failing at times. But I do understand from my experience 20 years ago in covering when the NHL went from a totally open-ended economic model to a salary cap, that the single most pivotal factor in that is that the owners have to stay together. They have to be on the same side. They have to buckle down. They have to have a war chest, as they call it. They have to be both ready and able. Actually, I should also throw in willing, because that's kind of important, to shut down. Doesn't mean they want to do it, but they have to be at least set for it. And by the way, I'm saying this in isolation. This part of this didn't come up. I'm speaking from my own experience in covering the NHL thing. So what has to happen is they can't be casting rebellious votes or whatever. They actually have to be working together toward a common goal. Now, where that is, or even if that is, I don't have that knowledge. I genuinely do not. But I do know that coming up with a system that works more evenly across all markets, and for anybody who doesn't know what a salary cap system is, I always feel obligated to bring it up. It's a ceiling and a floor and greatly expanded revenue sharing. So every argument that you have against it gets blown up with that one sentence because it's all there. It's all in place. So, yes, he's involved. Does he have the credibility? Is he the laughingstock or whatever? I would only know that, Jeffrey, if I were talking to the other owners, and I'm not. So I don't want to give you a guesswork / speculation kind of answer. But, I mean, I also can tell you that I've never heard that from anybody else, including other writers who've been covering other teams in other cities. They just think of the Pirates partially for being cheap, but way, way more for just being bad at what it is that they do from a baseball perspective. And both of those, of course, fall on nutting. I appreciate the question. I appreciate everybody listening to Daily Shot of Pirates. I'm going to do another one of these tomorrow.